IB Nation Sports Talk is up and rolling on a Tuesday. There's Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Stires, and no, you're not seeing double. You're just seeing Vince twice, is what it is.
Yeah.
He was on this afternoon with Brian and Trevor, and he's back for your viewing and listening pleasure.
It's probably
right
more
now.
listening than viewing would be my guess, but that's just how it goes.
That's true. You look like it's been a while since you got that crop kind of chopped there.
Oh,
like
I need one. Yeah, it's.
I mean, I wish that I could, like people could see. I had my hat off yesterday, and someone asked if I shaved my head. I was like, no, there's some gray stubble there. You just can't see it in the reflection coming off the light up there. So,
well, that's honestly why I like to keep my hair even shorter, because it's less obvious of the grays. You know what I mean? Like, I was just looking in the mirror when I was upstairs, and you got some wavy grays on the side. I was like, whoa. Like, that's when it's time. That's when it's time.
Mike's excited to see you. Is that like,
that's Mike?
Is that Prison Mike? Do you have a do-rag on in that?
Did you call him Prison
photo?
Mike?
Did you ever see The Office? Prison
okay.
Mike?
Okay, that's pretty good.
When he did Prison
I didn't get the reference.
Prison Mike. Yeah.
I didn't get the reference.
Oh, Jesse
geez.
Chiming in. Little poke from the background there.
I mean, it's not like he's on time all the time. I'm just saying.
Even Trevor's here too. Trevor just got done looking at you, and now he's going to look at you some more.
So Trevor, did you see what he says there? Sean and Floppy.
Sean and Floppy. Is that what he's?
There's a story behind that. If you want to hear it.
Okay.
So
this
is what we share stories here.
Right.
I mean, in the evening show, it's just a little different vibe. So yesterday, Trevor, myself, my son Dylan, and my father-in-law Chuck, we all participated in the Hillsdale football golf outing.
Right.
Up at Hillsdale. Had a great time. Fun was had by all. Well, we started on the 7th hole, and we're going, and about the 16th hole, right? Hole number 16, not our 16th of the day, but hole number 16. I'm walking along, and I got a pair of golf shoes on, and all of a sudden, the sole of the golf shoe decides, whoop, we're not going to be a part of the shoe anymore.
Oh, man.
And so the heel is still attached, but the rest of the sole is literally just literally
flopping in the wind.
Flapping in the wind. So I'm trying to walk. I got to pick up my knee so that I'm not I look like an idiot as I'm walking around and waiting to get to the 18th hole so I can go to the car and put my tennis shoes on. So my father-in-law called me Floppy. He's like, come on, Floppy, let's go. And it just stuck for the rest of the day. And now Trevor calls me Floppy. So,
great story, first of all. Second, was Trevor the ringer that you thought he was going to be?
Trevor did he did a great job. It was early in the season for Trevor. So you got to remember. Okay. So last year,
it's a long drive for him too to get all the way up to Hillsdale.
It was. He did the halfway thing Friday night, and then Sunday night, and then did the other half. But he had to drive all the way back last evening. And thank you, Scott. It was awful. Now, it didn't help that my shoes were 28 years old.
There is that. But you still have the old school spikes in there.
Oh yeah, the screw-ins. 100%. Because when I used to work at a country club, they had an extra pair of shoes from their member guest. And so I got them for free and brand new Nike, golf shoes are great. Well, they lasted me 28 years. Now they're in the trash. But anyway, Trevor did a great job, but he's now married. So he doesn't get out to the links as often as he did when he was single this time last year. You know what I mean? So we all had our fair share of good shots. I'll tell you who the real MVP, though. It was Chuck. Chuck was the real MVP because he got to shoot from the senior tees, which arguably was about 100 yards closer on a lot of the holes.
Wow. And
he would just freaking pipe it right down the middle.
Nice.
And just bypass anything we were doing off the tee. And so he set us up real nicely every single time. It was like his bright yellow ball would just go sailing over our heads down the fairway. Trevor and I would just look at each other.
There goes Chuck.
Okay, here we go. We're taking Chuck's ball. Pick him up. Let's go. So we had a good time, though. We had a good time. Got some Hillsdale swag on the way home.
All right.
So it was a good day.
Good deal. Sounds like it. All right. Well, we hope we're going to have a good day.
Yes.
And this is kind of a theme show that I've been thinking about doing for a while. And then I think it was last week I saw this list that ESPN put out, top 25 college football plays of the last 25 years.
Yes.
And the only Notre Dame adjacent play on this list, because this is all of college football over the last 25 years. So it's fairly selective, obviously. But the only Notre Dame adjacent play is the Bush Push from 2005. That comes in at number 14 on the list. Now, we'll save that. We'll talk about that specifically in rapid fire with some other stuff.
Yeah.
But we're going to go through. I asked some of our subscribers on the Champions Lounge, and if you're in the chat, watching live right now on YouTube, you can submit some of your own. I've seen some submissions come in on the chat. Pretty much everything that I've seen in the chat so far was put up on the Champions Lounge already. There are a lot of really good ones. Some I didn't think of, some that I did, but we're going to share our Notre Dame football top plays from the last 25 years. First, though, here's a quick rundown of ESPN's. I'll do the top 5. The Auburn kick 6 against Alabama. Remember that one?
Yeah. Oh, I do remember that one. Yeah.
Alabama's trying a 57-yard field goal in a tie game with 1 second left, and Chris Davis returns it from the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Number 2, Boise State's Statue of Liberty play against Oklahoma, the 2007 Fiesta Bowl. Number 3, Vince Young's game-winning touchdown in the national championship game in 2005. 4th and 5. Vince Young scrambles in for the game-winning touchdown. And then number 4, Tua's game-winning touchdown pass to Devontae Smith in the 2018 national championship game. And Appalachian State comes in at number 5. Not really a play,
just the game itself.
A very big moment, beating Michigan in 2007.
Yeah.
18 years already since that happened. Been basking in the glow.
Yeah.
Ever since.
Those are some good ones, to be honest with you. The kick 6, I thought was an interesting addition to this. Auburn did a really good job of really capitalizing on that play because I remember I don't know why I remember this random tidbit, but they had for recruiting that very next offseason, they went into the stadium and they painted the path of that kick 6 on the field, and they used that like with recruits, which I thought was really interesting.
That's kind of cool. I don't think I ever saw that.
Yeah, I don't know why I remember that piece of information, but I remember seeing it. I was like, oh, that's thinking outside the box. Because that was their rival and they had no business winning that game whatsoever. But yeah, that was a massive play. I don't know that I would have that as number 1 though, Sean.
I don't know. I mean, it's huge rivalry game, obviously, and the odds of a game ending like that, and like literally a walk-off, runoff, known as the kick 6.
I would say, Tommy, the Michigan State punt block to beat Michigan, like
good one.
That's a really good one. I don't think that gets as much love as maybe it should. I didn't see the whole list. But I don't know if that one was on there, but that was a really, really impressive play there.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt that it was against Michigan.
I agree. So again, ESPN put out their list of all 25 plays of the last 25 years. You can check that out if you want. We're not going to run through their whole list. We're going to do Notre Dame plays. Now,
yes,
for the purposes of this, we're going to save the plays from last season for rapid fire, because to me that's like a category unto itself.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now there will be some people who nominated some of the plays from last season on the Champions Lounge and stuff like that. Do you have any like specific to you? I have a few that I'll share that no one else has mentioned so far. That come to mind for me. Do you have any of your own from the last 25 years that spring to the top of your mind?
I didn't have a chance to look through the Champions Lounge to know if these got taken or not. I gotta tell you, Sean, a lot of mine are like negative, like my remembrance of Notre Dame football. That's the problem.
Come on, Vince.
That's the problem.
These are supposed to be positive plays.
I
You
know.
can't think of anything good that happened in the last 25 years.
Well, of course I can, but not ones that probably weren't taken by somebody else is what
it's
I'm saying.
amazing because you worked with Lou Samoji. I never worked with him, but obviously I knew him, and he was, like that photographic memory
that
Lou had. And like your memory is worse than mine.
Oh, it's awful
when it comes to like things that happened more than 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah, awful. Like I don't remember a single football game that I played in high school.
Really?
No, that's that. I remember a few moments, but like somebody's like, "Oh, you remember that game we won?" Blah 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 blah. Nope, sure don't. I don't remember a lot of the games that I coached in. Like it's just gone. It's gone.
It's funny because that our little reunion weekend that I had with some of my old buddies in San Diego a couple of weeks ago, there's like certain things I remember. Like I kind of remember more broadly, and I like for whatever reason I can like. I don't know what it is sort of about my brain. I can like compartmentalize for the most part. It happened in this year, like roughly, like that kind of stuff. And so like I can remember like the event, but there were other guys who remembered like very specific details.
Yeah.
And like things I said or, like things that, happened. It's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. That's the thing. Like I remember like guys I coached with and like some of the things that we did, but like not specific, like day-to-day type stuff or, like I remember you wrestling the ref kid, like I remember little things, you know what I mean? Like yeah. And having video and pictures obviously helps jog the memory of certain events and things like that. But to your point, like the bowl game against Iowa State down in Florida.
Right.
That one is very, forefront of my brain because I took my wife down there with me and we went to Florida and it was a lot of fun and Notre Dame kicked the crap out of them. You know what I mean? So like I remember that game, but that in the vast annals of Notre Dame football, like that's pretty low on the totem pole. You know what I mean?
So again, guys and gals, this is the last 25 years. We're not going back 30 years.
We're not going back to that far.
This is only the last 25 years that we're touching on today. But obviously the Florida State game, great memory. As Mike says, Carter knocking down the pass in the end zone. I mean, great. We're only going back to 2000 because that's where like basically the first 25 years of this century.
So to answer your question though, my favorite memory is Samardzija or Quinn to Samardzija UCLA game winner. Like that is by far my favorite moment positively.
That is definitely one that comes up quite a bit, with people in the Champions Lounge. And like you and I, because Bush Push was 2005, UCLA, Quinn Samardzija was 2006.
Yep.
And you and I were standing roughly in the same spot for both of those events on the Notre Dame sideline, kind of between the 5 and the 10-yard line, I think is about where we were. And so we had the same exact view almost for both of those plays, and both finished in the same end zone. The Bush push, and Samardzija ran right by us into the end zone as he kind of stumbled the last 5 yards or so. And like for Bush push, because of the crown in the field, we could, we kind of saw the ball shoot up in the air.
Saw it in the air. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Thought the game was over. And then of course,
we're on the field, Sean.
The field. Yeah, we were.
We're on the field. We have to be told to leave the field because they're saying the game's not over.
Yep.
We're all in disbelief. Don't realize why the game's not like it makes no sense because the fumble went out of bounds and all of these different things. Yeah. Oh, I remember that one real well. Really, really well. Yeah. And I remember seeing Chuck Weiss walking out, and then having to be
look on his face.
Oh, yeah. Having to be escorted off the field, back, not in a negative way, but like, because he's all, all the head coaches always have the cops around him, that kind of thing. But that was a wild one. That is an absolute wild one that I will absolutely never forget. And then very similarly, since we're going down the negative town here, Michigan, the game that was at Michigan where Notre Dame scored like in the last minute, and then Michigan goes down and scores with Denard Robinson and that whole crew. They go down and score at the very last, because I remember, it's the same situation, right? Complete elation, thinking that Notre Dame's going to win this game to just absolute defeat.
Was that
Like,
the one when Notre Dame was wearing the shamrocks on the helmets and all
I
that?
think so.
stuff?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Those were cool uniforms, by the way. Yeah. The Adidas throwback version. Yeah. So those are I remember those two games very, very well. Just because of the change in emotion, right?
Yeah.
So
For sure.
Yeah.
I've got one that I haven't seen anyone else mention. Like the game itself was like, in terms of significance, was not huge, but it happened to be my very first game at Notre Dame Stadium. It was Notre Dame Air Force, October 28th, 2000. This October it'll be the 25-year anniversary, my first game. So Notre Dame and Air Force are tied at 28. Air Force is lining up to try to kick a 28-yard field goal on, the last play of regulation, would have been the game winner. But Notre Dame's safety, Glenn Earl, is lined up on the left side of the line, and he comes off the edge. He blocks the field goal. He wasn't supposed to even rush the kicker. He was supposed to kind of play back and, play safe in case there was a fake. But for whatever reason, he took it upon himself to rush off the edge. He blocks the kick. And then in overtime, Joey Getherall takes a pitch from Matt Lavecchio and goes 9 yards on an end around for the game-winning touchdown for Notre Dame. So that was my very first Notre Dame experience, was all that happening at the end of the game. And, it's looking like they're going to lose. Yeah. Glenn Earl is the hero. And then Joey Getherall scores the game-winning touchdown. Second to the last year for Bob Davie, as it turns out.
I was in the stadium for that game as well.
Were you?
Up in the student section.
I was going to ask if you would have been a Holy Cross student at that point.
Yeah, I was, because I graduated from Holy. That would have been my sophomore year, and of course, Holy Cross was only a 2-year school at the time, and so I graduated in May of 2001. So the 2000 season would have been in the stands. So went to all the games, went to every game.
Again, for the final time. This is only the last 25 years.
Come on, Salty!
The Snow Bowl happened 33 years ago. So, I'm sorry.
Right. Last 25. That would be, I know time gets away from all of us.
Yes.
I get it. But so it's 2000 and beyond.
Yes, 2000 until now.
Because 25 years ago it seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't, unfortunately. Long time ago.
All right. Let's get to some of these that people submitted in the Champions Lounge. A lot of good ones. Quinn DeSamarja is the first one on the list.
That's my favorite.
Deshaun Kaiser to Will Fuller against Virginia.
That's a good one.
Now, I did not see this game live. I had gone to, this was probably Jesse's sophomore year in college. So we had gone to his game, and Adrian, we're driving back. I'm listening on the radio when Kaiser hits Fuller for that touchdown. And then, remember, they went for 2 after that. But I'm listening to Don Criqui on the radio, Don Criqui talked right through the 2-point conversion. And then the next thing you know, they're kicking off. Like, you didn't even know that Notre Dame went for 2.
Why am I not surprised?
Yes.
In any way about that. Any way.
I know. But that was obviously a great, a huge play for that season in 2015. The Kaiser to Fuller.
It's where you got the meme of the Virginia guys slumped over the wall. That was and when you look at that game in just like in a nutshell, I mean, you look at Kaiser and what he did in the spring game that year, which was, he was awful, and the injury that happened, and how just all of the above, like just the entire situation. And then he only had 92 yards passing in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And the big chunk of it came on that one play. Right. So, you just feel bad for Malik and because his season started out just fantastic, and then to get hurt like that, it's just awful.
And that was the year that they were doing the Showtime series.
Yes.
Cameras called that stuff behind the scenes.
DK looked terrible after that, didn't he?
He did.
Man, don't worry. This is your team.
And that's what led us to both quarterbacks. They tried to play 2 quarterbacks the next year.
It's awful. Just a bad situation.
Mm-hmm. Kyron Williams run versus North Carolina.
A stiff arm, baby. Like I had that one written down. That was it was just not a great offensive line for Notre Dame. And, that play was supposed to go right. And then he turns around and goes left and he's stiff arming dudes and then just right down the sideline. Just shades of Kyron Williams' career right there.
One of the great individual runs, I think, in Notre Dame history. Like if you ask, like this run, I put this right up there. Like when I look at Quintus Samardzija, that might be, we're not ranking these, but if I were to rank, Quintus Samardzija might be number one, and I'd probably put Kyron, the run versus North Carolina, at number two. Like, because of what you said, the fact that it was supposed to go right, there's nothing there. He reverses field and goes like 7 yards deep in the backfield and then comes out, stiff arm coming out of the backfield, could have still been tackled for a loss. Then he catches the sidelines in a couple of blocks, and it's all the whole run was Kyron Williams.
Yes.
That's what's so impressive about
100%. It was him versus that entire defense. Yes. It's just really all it was.
Yep. Seth says the goal line stand against Stanford in the rain, Love against IU in the playoff, and the Love run.
Oh, can't use those. That's this year. Can't use those.
The goal line stand against Stanford. I think Jesse and I were talking about that the other day. Like one of the, maybe the most memorable, like other than there's some other plays from that 2012 season that'll come up, but that was very controversial.
Yeah.
Stanford, claimed that he was, that the running back was never down, that, his momentum, like he was still going forward and all that, kind of his forward progress wasn't stopped, but massive play.
Play I'll never forget that, because that was a little peek behind the curtain, right? Back when you and I worked together at the radio station, you were in charge of the credentials, and there would be games where you'd be like, you know what, Vince, I'm going to give this credential to somebody else. It was a little easier to swap credentials back then.
Yeah.
You would bring somebody else up.
They were still on cardboard stock. Yeah.
Yes. Whatever the case may have been. And they're like, okay, like, what am I going to say? That was one of those games. And I remember very vividly watching that game. Torrential downpour, right? We are in the play place at McDonald's having dinner, and I figured out how to get that game on the television because I was cranky because I was like, we're seriously going out to dinner right now. Like, I'm trying to watch the game.
Right.
And I figured out how to get the TV in the play place to have the Stanford game on. And so I'm just over there watching the game. My children could have like died in the play place, and I probably wouldn't have known the difference. I'm watching the game, and
they did.
Well, that's when that play happened. The goal line stand. I'm in McDonald's, like, yes, let's go. And the rain is just pouring down. So that is one I will never forget, just because of the circumstances of where I was watching it.
For sure. Andy Lou, the Kyron Williams 91-yard run against North Carolina. He mentions that, and the Jeremiah Love run against Penn State. Again, we'll get to all the plays from this past season in rapid fire because there were so many submissions. We're going to separate them up. Domer Grizz with a comment about the Bush push play, and we're going to talk about that in rapid fire as well. I thought it was definitely worth talking about. BK's personal chef, even though it came in a loss, the 4th and 2 stop against Ohio State in the 2023 season was absolutely clutch. Should have won the game on that play right there. Yeah, you're just not going to remember,
Yeah.
It's not going to be remembered as fondly because of the loss. Kind of going back to Bush push and how we think about that, probably. He says, on a more positive note, while maybe not top 25 contenders, personally really like Fink against Michigan 2018.
It's a huge catch.
Big play.
That's
Big
a
play.
huge
First
catch.
touchdown. First touchdown of the game. Deep ball from Brandon Wimbush. That's right. Yep.
Huge
Lindsey's
play.
behind the back, defender's back grab in the 2022 Navy game, and he'll throw Kyron's game opening touchdown against Clemson in there. And that's one that I forgot about, like that. Because that was the first play from scrimmage, right? The
massive
set
the
Kyron
tone.
Williams run. Yep.
Absolutely set the tone for that game. Was that the 2020 game?
I believe so.
So not a lot of fans, obviously, in the stands.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those kind of situations. I was definitely watching the game on TV, and that just set the absolute tone for that entire game. It was awesome. Awesome.
Domer Grizz says Kyron's run, possibly his favorite play of all time. Again, I would have a hard time disagreeing with that if we're talking about the North Carolina run. Hamilton's interception against Florida State, where he comes across the field from the entire opposite side of the field, was pretty crazy. That was a really good one as well. That play down at Florida State.
Yeah, just an individual play in and of itself. I mean, that was just a great individual play. Obviously didn't have a whole lot of bearing on the outcome of the game because Notre Dame whooped him up pretty good, but that was still an amazing individual play.
He says Sean Crawford's strip of the Michigan State running back as he was going into the end zone and subsequent recovery. Pretty great and important play. Very true. And there, another one, 2004, speaking of Michigan State, this was on like my personal list. Tom Zibikowski in another, I believe it was raining in that game.
Pouring rain.
Rips the ball away from the dude and races 75 yards for what was credited as a fumble return for a touchdown.
And isn't that the one where didn't Notre Dame have to come back at the very end of that game and they had to drive at the end? And that
I think so.
It was a close game. I remember
I think Quinn led like a comeback at the end of that game, if I'm not, or was it still Carlisle Holiday?
No, I think it was Quinn.
Because 2004 was when all that was going on.
Pretty sure that was Brady.
I think it was Quinn.
Because I was up there for that game. I went to that game.
Oh, were you?
One of the very few, away games I would go to, but I did go to that game. My mother-in-law, my wife were sitting in the stands while my father-in-law and I were in the press box. That one didn't end well for the family.
I imagine.
It was a downpour.
Toonsa says it was an 06. I looked it up. It was 2004 because I thought it was an 06 for some reason as well. But the 75-yard return, and I will.
Maybe I'm confusing the two games. Maybe that's possible.
Maybe it's the rain that we're confusing.
Yeah.
Because
I was there for the rain game. So whether that was 06 or 04, I'm not sure.
06 might have been the rain.
Okay.
Maybe, but again, because I went back to double check what year it was with Zibikowski. And hang on just a second.
Toonsa says the rain game was 06, which is absolutely possible.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So here's the 2004 box score. See, this is not the box score that I looked at earlier. Okay, here it is. Yeah. 2004. Zibikowski, 75-yard fumble return. This was the 2004 game at Michigan State. September 8th, 2004, according to this box score, which comes from Notre Dame's website.
Those
Brady
are
Quinn
games.
Brady Quinn, 11 of 24 for 215 yards passing. And that was not the comeback.
Yeah.
Though. Notre Dame won 31-24, but Michigan State actually scored the last touchdown of the game with 9 seconds left to make it.
So the 06 game is the one I was at then,
right?
Which makes more sense.
Yeah. It's easy to do. You got them turned around. It's been 20 plus years.
Which means my wife and my mother-in-law were sitting in the rain getting poured on, and she was pregnant. That's what that means. So that's awesome.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Irish English has Kyle Rudolph's 95-yard touchdown against Michigan in 2010. And then the Kaiser to Fuller against Virginia, the goal line stand against Stanford, and Love's touchdown. All very good. I don't have a lot of recollection about that Kyle Rudolph.
Kyle Rudolph one, that one gets me. I don't know that one at all. Having a tight end go 95.
Yeah. Domer Grizz with a sneaky one here I didn't think of this off the top of my head, but the Sam Hartman 4th and 16 conversion a couple of years ago against Duke was a massive play, obviously. And then Audric Estime scores, bolting up the middle on the next play. But I rewatched that Sam Hartman play today, and the way, he had to scramble. He kind of scrambled, it was a little bit like the scramble was reminiscent of Quinn on the scramble that he had to make when he got out of the pocket when he ultimately hit Samardzija for that touchdown pass against UCLA. But Hartman gets out there, he's right near the line of scrimmage, and he thought he had an open tight end, and then he wasn't there, and so he almost takes off from a dead stop to get that 16 yards, but they were all, Duke was playing zone, so he had a huge cushion, a huge bubble to run into. But obviously, Sam Hartman, not known for his running, but that's
No.
the biggest run of his short-lived Notre Dame career anyway. Domer Grizz also says Zibby's punt return against Southern Cal in 2005. That was a big one. And again, like that's one that I mixed up. I thought it was a different USC game, but it was that one.
The offense wasn't prolific in that 05 game, if I'm not mistaken. There were a lot of things that kind of went Notre Dame's way that allowed them to get in the end zone. Yeah. One of which was that punt return.
Yep, for sure. But that was a big one because like there was some contact Zibby had to run through. And he was so good at doing it. So
100%.
Domer Gris, there was also a play against Georgia Tech where Foskey strip sacks the quarterback and MTA picks it up and starts running. Foskey gets up off the ground, sprints downfield to block one would-be tackler into another to enable the scoop and score. Another good one. Man. But again, they all blend together.
We've been doing this for a long time, Sean.
Yes. Ballpeen Shillelagh, don't know if it's top 25 material, but my mind always goes to the book to Avery Davis deep pass following touchdown in the last minute in the 2020 Clemson game to send it into overtime.
That was huge. I remember that very well. I mean, that was, trying to get that Clemson monkey off their back. That score was massive. And that throw, the first throw was massive and the score was massive. I mean, that was one of my better Ian Book memories, to be honest with you. So that was huge.
Yep. Jay Domer, just as we were putting that up, was asking about that Avery Davis catch against Clemson. That was probably the biggest play of Avery Davis's career.
Oh, yeah.
The way it turned out. Double bogey like a champion. J-Love catch out of the backfield where he hurdled one guy and then trucked another. That felt like every other play last year.
I know, right?
And then the Manti interception against Oklahoma. That's like Manti's interceptions that season out of nowhere.
He had so many interceptions that year. It was just wild. For a middle linebacker to have that kind of an effect of the passing game was nuts.
Double R 2.0, the Samardzija touchdown on 4th and 5 with 8 minutes left against Michigan State gets undersold a bit. The team's reaction to it was big time. I don't remember the actual reaction, but you're right. It does get undersold, but obviously it turned out to be pretty important because they won that game.
Mm-hmm.
Irish English says his 12-year-old son says the Miles Boykin one-hand touchdown catch against LSU. Like that could be a top 10, like of the last 25 years, like depending on how you place the significance.
Yeah.
It's the Music City Bowl. So,
right.
I get that.
And LSU was not a great team that year.
Right. But it's still LSU.
It's still LSU. And it was still a situation where Notre Dame should not have won that game. And Ian Book just kind of what he should have done a lot more in his career, just kind of put it up and let his guy go up and get it. And that's exactly what Miles Boykin did. He just went up and got it and made two LSU defenders look really stupid and then just ran into the end zone. Like that's a big play.
Well, that was, in relief of Brandon Wimbush as well. And it's kind of ironic that, as you said, he threw it up and let him get it. What pretty much led to him becoming the starter the next year. He didn't do as much.
Didn't do that very often, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And it's not because he didn't have the talent to do it. He just didn't do it, you know.
Scott L says the Michigan State rain game was week 2 or 3 in 2006. And they always used to play
early
around that September 20th, 21st, 22nd type weekend when Michigan State was a fixture on the schedule. Jimmy Irish, honorable mention, Zibikowski punt return against USC. We talked about that. And then he says he thinks last year produced 4 on its own. The Harrison kickoff return against Georgia. Love's 2-yard run against Penn State. Gray's interception. And the Mitch Jeter actually kicking the game-winning field goal. We'll see where those come in when we do the 2024 ranking in rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, the returned interceptions against USC last year, breaking 2 records within minutes of each other. You almost have to put those together too, it seems like, because of the fact, like, the odds of one, and then they happened on back-to-back possessions. Zibby's punt return, Irish in the Bluegrass. Zibby's punt return against USC. Electric moment. It was. The stadium was just nuts after that. He says, not exactly a single play, but 2006, Quinn leading the comeback. Yeah, it was 2006, the comeback on the road, torrential rain. So the Michigan State radio announcers rant afterwards. I don't think I ever heard that. Let's see if I have to go back and Google that one. Other moments, Sierra Woods' long touchdown run against Oklahoma in 2012. Good one. That was like fourth quarter, if I remember right. Notre Dame's offensive line had kind of, matched up well against Oklahoma. They hadn't really hit any big runs, and Sierra Wood broke that out and really put the game away at that point with that run. And that was obviously ended up being huge, in terms of getting to a national championship game. He says the goal line stand against Stanford. Clemson long run for Kyron Williams. BMO's pick six off DJ Uiagalelei in Freeman's first season. That was really like the coming out party, I think, for BMO that game.
And that was also the slamming the door of DJ Uiagalelei's career pretty much at Clemson. I mean, they made him look really bad. Remember, they brought in Cade Klubnik, who I think was a true freshman at the time, and he immediately threw an interception. So I mean, that was just the demise of Clemson in that particular game, and the demise of DJ, and that was a rough game if you were a fan of Orange.
May says the touchdown by Woods was in the first quarter. See, that's how bad the memory goes.
That's a long time ago, man.
I was thinking fourth quarter for some reason. Man,
it was 13 years
again.
ago.
I don't have the loose emoji memory, so
right.
He says, even though it was spoiled, the touchdown Golson to Robinson against Florida State. Yeah, it was awesome for about 3 seconds. That's right.
Not even. That hanky came out fast.
It did. Not even long enough to feel good about it. A lot of great ones mentioned. Dillingham to battle in 2002. How about that against Michigan State?
I remember that one.
Yep.
You want to talk about two unlikely heroes from a game like that, but I do remember that game, and I remember that play. So good one. And the Masochist 87. That's a good one.
Arnaz battle. Man.
Telling you.
Name. October 2014, Golson to Koyak, 4th down and 11. Touchdown pass to beat Stanford on a rainy Saturday in South Bend. I was there and soaked.
I remember that one. He was in the back left part of the end zone, if I remember correctly, and he was just standing there literally all by himself to win that game.
BA 5083, goal line stand against Stanford in 2012. Sierra Wood touchdown run against Oklahoma.
The Oklahoma game, though, I don't remember the Woods run, to be perfectly honest with you. I remember the pass that was in Oklahoma game. It was tied, I think, 14-14, and it was Golson through the pass, and I can't remember who it was to. It was a long, post pattern right over the middle. That's what I remember from the 2012 Oklahoma game on the road.
I'm having a hard time with any of it. Man, the Sierra Wood run was in the first quarter, 62 yards. What am I thinking of in the fourth quarter? Like, it seemed like there was a big play in the fourth quarter.
It was the pass.
That had to have been it then. Yeah. It was the pass. That's right. That's right. All right. Andrew, Kyron's run to start the Clemson game. We did that. Quinn DeShark did that. Greathouse touchdown against Penn State. That's a good one from last year. Here's one that I'm surprised took this long to mention. Golden Tate into the Michigan State band.
He just Supermaned it into the band. That was hilarious. That not long after the band stopped sitting down by the field. They started sitting the band into the stands.
Put the bands in the upper stands. Jaden Harrison kickoff return. Manti Te'o's 2 picks against Michigan. That night was the start of his Heisman campaign, really, with those 2 interceptions that he had against Michigan that night. Another rainy game.
Yeah. Those are all from last year.
So he's got this is all about last year. I will say this. He says the Great House reception probably saved the season. He doesn't get credit for breaking the ankles of 2 defenders. Those who said they fell down are full of excrement, and there's no lie there. Who wrote this? Let me see. Who wrote this? Andrew WHM 54. There is zero lie. He broke ankles. They did not just fall down. I'm sorry. They fell down because of the moves.
Correct.
2 moves that Jaden Greathouse
right. They don't just fall down. Like, that's hilarious to me when you listen to some of the anti-Notre Dame people. Like, well, he fell down and this guy fell down. Of course you made the play. Like, no, that's not at all what happened, but okay.
What is this handle? So it goes 76.
So it goes.
Okay. Field goal to win the Orange Bowl. Kyle Hamilton picking off Florida State, closing on the ball from a million miles away. We talked about that. The Arnaz Battle touchdown and the Stanford goal line.
Yep.
Touchdown. 2012. Good ones. 1-0. Mesa AK, Josh Adams, 84-yard touchdown run against USC. Dexter Williams, 97-yard run at Virginia Tech in 2018. Tony
Likes the
Jones,
long ones. I like it.
Yeah. Tony Jones TD reception against USC in 2018. Sealed the win, the undefeated regular season, trip to the playoff, and Morrison's 96-yard pick six against Clemson. 22. A legend is born. All awesome ones. Man, it's like what's crazy is like all those Josh Adams runs get lost in the shuffle with all these plays because they were just so commonplace that year.
I know. That year, he was just busting off long runs. It was like, okay, when is this going to happen? Because it's going to happen. Every single game that he played, it was like, okay, where is the highlight reel long run going to take place?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Ben Tarnowski loves 2-yard run against Penn State. Kyron's touchdown run. Price kick return against USC. Forgot about that. Hamilton's half-field pick against Florida State, and an underrated one booked to Avery Davis, 2018. We talked about that one. Irish 466, an underrated one was the 4th and 11. Talked about this. Golson to Koyak to beat Stanford with a minute left. Subway alum 92. Zibby's punt return against Southern Cal, the loudest he ever heard the stadium. Wonder what that would sound like today with the stadium, the way it's, like with the 2 press boxes and the video screen and the whole thing now, the way the noise stays in there. So much different today. Rudolph's 95-yard touchdown from Christ against the Skunk Bears in 2010. Goal line stand against Stanford. Let's see. Most of these, it looks like, are from this year. And I'm confident that I've got most of them on my list.
Yeah.
T. Walsh, I was born a fan 71 years ago, and I've had some great ones, but I think Love's run against Penn State would have to be the best. The fact that he was hurt, spent, and just beat to hell made that run incredible. That and Reggie Brooks getting knocked out. Not Reddit Brooks, but Reggie Brooks. All right, and that is it. A lot of great submissions.
Yeah.
There. Man.
We've witnessed a lot of Notre Dame history, Sean.
I know. Some of them, it's, again, it's like we've seen so much, like people will mention them. I'm like, what? Hold it. When?
I know. Because it does all run together after a while. And I don't say this not realizing how lucky we are to be able to watch a lot of this stuff in person. It's just, it does run together after 25 years, man.
Chris Brown, the receiver that got the go route king, Chris Brown.
Chris Brown
against Oklahoma.
Huge. Yep. That was huge, a huge play.
Yep. Big time. All right, well, that is it for the top plays of the last 25 years, and even some who stretched them back past 25 years.
I mean, they're just rules.
You got to do what you got to do, right? Good plays are good plays. Great plays are great plays. Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
First rapid fire of the week for me. Ready to roll.
All right, here we go. So we did all this because ESPN put out a list of the top 25 plays of the last 25 years. And as I said in the first segment, the only Notre Dame adjacent play on that list is the Bush push. in 2005, which is number 14 on their list. So we just gave a lot of our own top plays of the last 25 years, had a lot of input as well. So one of our subscribers, Domer Grizz on the Champions Lounge, says the Bush push was not great, and the only reason it's remembered is because of the controversial rule breaking required to score the touchdown. He says it's memorable and talked about, but not great. Do you buy or sell it?
Well, it was not a great individual football play. It was a great play because of what it meant to college football. So, I mean, I buy it from the premise that it was memorable, but not a great football play, right? Because it technically was illegal, number one. And number two, again, Notre Dame fan, right? But I was standing right there. I don't feel like they should have gotten another play. Like the clock should have run out. And so it was memorable in college football because of all of the things surrounding it. It was absolutely memorable, but it's not a great play, but it's a memorable play. So if it was the top 25 most memorable plays in college football, which I think is what they meant it to be.
Right. The headline is ESPN's top 25 college football plays of the last 25 years.
So it's not a great football play.
It's a very broad term. Yeah. Like in terms of greatness, it's not. But that game, it's essentially like how you view that play essentially comes down to what Charlie Weiss said after the game. At the end of the day, they lost. And at the end of the day, Charlie Weiss was still the head coach of the team that lost a great game. So there's no consolation in that, right? So if you're a Notre Dame fan, you obviously don't remember Bush push, fondly, but it is a very memorable play of college football lore. You had Notre Dame, the number one team in the nation, on the ropes, couldn't quite finish them off. Now, as Scott L. said, and you and I agree on this, he said that the play before the Bush push where the clock ran out and the ball went out at the 2.5-yard line and Notre Dame won before the BS calls. Like that could have, I think it was Zibikowski got his hat on the ball and, shot it up in the air. And, like his long that ball seemed like it was in the air forever.
Yes.
Forever.
And it did not go forward. It went backwards.
No. Yeah.
And that's a fumble. And the clock should have run out.
Yep.
Hey, it's sour grapes, I guess, and it was 20 years ago, but I don't care.
Right.
That was still
so awesome. I agree. The Bush push is not a great play.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's a name for it and people outside of either of the fan bases, like nationally, you say Bush push, you know exactly what you're talking about, right? And that's why it's on a list like this.
Yeah. Yeah. It is absolutely one of the more memorable plays in recent memory of college football, right? I mean, and I say recent, it was 20 years ago. Everybody knows what you're talking about when you say Bush push. Every single person on the planet. And it's because of that play that play is now legal, to be perfectly honest. So,
right.
And if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you can thank Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart for your Super Bowl.
Okay, so we spent the first segment doing Notre Dame's top plays of the last 25 years. Now, and some people nominated some of these, obviously, but we saved these specifically for this. Now we're going to do Notre Dame's top plays from the 2024 season. And I'll be honest with you, Vince, like when I started this, it's like, maybe I'll get 6 or 7. Let's see how many I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that was just off the top of my head.
That's what happens when you go to the national championship game. There's a lot of big plays.
Most of them came during the playoff run.
Right.
But there were others, obviously, that came outside of that. So what would be at the top of your list?
So I cheated a little bit because my number one play is not a play. It's a series of plays.
Okay.
And it's that minute and a half stretch in the Georgia game, where they got the fumble, the touchdown. Or it was a field goal, the fumble, the touchdown, the kickoff return.
Okay.
There was a 17-point swing in a matter of like a minute and a half of clock time. Obviously, there was halftime in between.
Right.
But I remember very vividly sitting in that stadium down in New Orleans with obviously everything that went on, outside of the game, and then the game getting pushed, and then you're in there and you're trying to focus on football when everything else is going on. And the game is just kind of back and forth, and you feel pretty good about Notre Dame and where they're at and all of these different things. And then all of a sudden you get this swing where you get the field goal, you get the strip sack touchdown, you get the kickoff return for a touchdown. At that point, I was like, game over. Notre Dame has got the monkey off their back. Like they've beaten an SEC team in the playoff.
Right.
Since 1993, like all of the different things that they were able to check off. And I feel like that minute and a half or whatever the time frame was, like that was the turning point for me from being a really good season to being a season that I will never forget.
It happened, and now they have just knocked off the Georgia freaking Bulldogs.
Correct. Because the regular season was awesome.
They finally won one of these slugfests because
both,
like the 2 regular season games against Georgia,
they lost.
Slugfest right down to the wire. And, it's kind of like the USC game. It's like, oh, you feel good about yourself. You took a good team down to the wire. They finally did it. They finally beat a legit team. They ended that 3 decades plus bowl drought of major bowl victories and all that kind of stuff. And Mace AK is in there with you on this stretch as well. It's funny. Like I understand what you're saying about that, but like my sequence, like if I was going to couple a couple together from the Georgia game, maybe I would put yours even a little bit higher, but the punt play, like, do we call it a fake punt? Where
they came out and then they ran off. Yeah.
They run the punt team off, the offense on. Georgia ends up jumping off sides, and that continues that drive. And then, of course, on that same drive, Riley Leonard with the diving first down play. And both of those things helped Notre Dame eat something like 7.5 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah. It's huge.
And that was, even though they didn't end up getting points out of that, the fact that those 2 plays contributed to them just being able to bleed the clock at the end and play keep away from Georgia.
I think Georgia got the ball back with like 2 minutes to go or less than 2 minutes to go. And then they get a sack and they got no timeouts. And it was just a disaster for Georgia at that point. That was just fun. You know what I mean? So the sequence that I talked about made me think that they're going to win the game. The sequence you're talking about was just enjoyable to watch.
Basically sealed the game.
Because it was just like Notre Dame is just beating the crap out of Georgia right now, just doing what they want. You know what I mean? They were just pounding it into Georgia, right into their face. And then, of course, you get the diving play by Riley Leonard, which I had on my list, obviously, the diving play. But you're right. The whole sequence where they bled that much clock, like that was massive. They beat Georgia in the sequence I was talking about. They took their soul in the sequence you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
it was good beautiful. Differentiation. Yep. Yeah. That's a good way to separate it. Do we like the Gray and Watts, the double pick sixes against USC? Do we? I think we talked about this. Do we couple those together?
I got them automatically. I 2 interception USC. That's what I wrote down. It's a combo. Obviously, singularly Christian Gray with the kind of the game that he was having, and the announcers were just freaking loving talking about how they were picking on Christian Gray and all these other things. For him to get that interception in that moment with USC driving to try to tie the score, by the way, for him to get that and then just take it the other direction, that was just awesome. And then, of course, Xavier Watts, just the cherry on top of the whole thing. But I really wish they wouldn't have let USC score at the last second of the game because the winning by 3 touchdowns would have been so much better than winning by 2. But
hey,
we'll take it. But yeah,
win's a win.
That sequence was awesome.
Okay, Andre says, I'm going to say this out loud. Steve Angeli leading Notre Dame for 3 points at the end of the first half against Penn State.
You can say it, and that's fine. It doesn't fall on it's not on my list. It's not. You can't get sacked twice. You can't get sacked twice and get all the credit for what happened there.
It wasn't Sorry. Again, if we're talking sequences, obviously that drive was very consequential.
It was important. They got points on the board.
Right. Credit where credit is due.
Sure.
He did it. They got the points. They were needed points. They were important.
Right.
Christian Gray's interception against Penn State.
Math. I've got that one written down. And I actually have it. This is another kind of a sequence, right? It was the interception and then the field goal that Mitch Jeter hit to win the game. Like,
yep.
At that point, it was like when Penn State got the ball and they're drive, they're trying to drive and all these other things, and I was legitimately nervous at that point, right? And then Christian Gray comes up with that interception. It's like, oh my God, they're pretty much in field goal range, like right now. And then they were able to obviously kick that field goal to win it. It was like, okay, like that was. I feel like they snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.
And we talked about this yesterday because we were doing the 2 words to describe all the defensive players yesterday. And obviously we were talking about Christian Gray. That was not an easy interception.
No,
that was not an easy play by any means.
Not at all. Like, look, there was no way that his receiver was going to catch that ball. And so Christian Gray was like the only one that even had an attempt at that ball, and going down there and picking it up right off the shoelaces, man, was awesome.
Exactly.
Just awesome.
Exactly. One that I think flies under the radar a little bit from last season is Jeremiah Love's 21-yard touchdown with under 2 minutes to play against Texas A&M in the season opener.
Oh, yeah.
That one gets lost in the shuffle, but they were
so
trailing.
Early.
They were trailing, as they're driving, and he scores that touchdown. It again, I don't think it's going to rank with some of these others because of where they happened in the season. That was a pretty big play itself, I thought. Last year.
No doubt about it.
And like the like you talked about the whole sequence against Georgia, just the Jaden Harrison kickoff return to open the second half. You talk about, momentum, keeping that momentum going from the end of the first half, and then just lightning striking right away in the second half. That was massive.
Well, and what I love the most about that sequence was pretty much the entire sequence was done by transfers.
Right.
And Notre Dame is very picky about their transfers. They don't bring them in bulk, right? They bring them in for a reason. And kickoff return. He was brought in because he was an All-American kickoff returner. He returns one in the biggest game of his career to that point, right? You had Riley Leonard throwing a touchdown to who did he throw it to? Help me out. Who did he throw the touchdown to? The little slant
against A&M?
No. Against Georgia.
Oh. Again, I'm not.
No,
was it Collins? Was it Bo Collins?
That's what I thought. It was to Bo Collins, also a transfer, right? And then you got a field goal in that moment. Mitch Jeter was a transfer. So like everything that happened in that sequence was because of a transfer. So I thought
I need to go back and watch these games because like I've still got most of them on my. I know I've got at the very least Penn State on my DVR. I think I've got the Georgia game too.
I'm sure you do.
And watch some.
I rewatched the IU game a couple of weeks ago.
Did you?
Just for fun. Great game
for sure. Speaking of which, Jeremiah Love, the touchdown run, after the Watts interception.
Yeah. Which the interception was awesome. We could break that down all day. Jack Kaiser gets in the way. He gets a lot of credit for that interception. And then, obviously Xavier Watts comes up with it. But then the very next play, like just you want to talk about the loudness of a stadium, right? As soon as he turned that corner, man, the roof just came off that place.
It was on.
It was unbelievable. And I was outside.
Yep.
So I was outside on the little deck area of the press box, and that place just came absolutely unglued, and it was unbelievable.
I mean, most people still think that the 2-yard run against Penn State was more impressive.
From a grit, like not wanting to go down, all of the
as physical as that game went,
I agree.
Like as beat up as he was,
I agree
at that point. Because remember the sprained MCL against USC, and it was iffy.
Sure.
He was able to play against Indiana, and he obviously had aggravated it, so he wasn't 100% to be able to give what he gave against Penn State.
Oh,
to turn in,
absolutely. But I mean,
yeah.
To your point, he was also injured for that run against IU as well. And he was able to just put on the afterburners and just outrun everybody.
No, he was, but again, he had a couple weeks in between where he could rest a little bit, is what I'm saying. He had more time to rest for that game. And then between that game and the accumulation of that game, followed by Georgia quickly and Penn State.
Yeah.
There was a lot of physical,
a lot of wear and tear there.
Taken by them. Yeah,
no doubt about it. But I would say if I had to rank them, I would say yes, I agree with you on that. But man, that play against IU, it set the tone for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like that game at that point felt like it was over.
Right.
So yeah.
Leonard Moore really doesn't have a lot of signature plays from last year, as great as he played, other than maybe chasing down Tyler Shuck, the Louisville quarterback.
That was before he was Leonard Moore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he hadn't really. That was the beginning of his coming out party, I would say. But he endeared himself to Notre Dame fans because of the hustle and because he basically turned what would have been or what was the worst play that they gave up all day into a positive for Notre Dame. So, yeah, that was a great play.
I am Tenzin. I am the son of Aang says it was also actually allowed on TV. ESPN did a good job feeding crowd noise. I'm sure he's talking about the Jeremiah Love run. And that's one thing like that. That's a note that I think NBC could, take from ESPN is turn that crowd mic up a little bit. People would actually like to hear more of that crowd atmosphere, especially when you've got a big game like that. That's like, sometimes ESPN maybe, could back it off the 11, and bring it down to like a 9.
Yeah,
but,
fair.
Because like it'll ride up pretty high sometimes, it seems like, and you have a harder time hearing the announcers. But like in that case, for that kind of atmosphere, I think it was
crank it.
It was warranted.
Let's go.
Yep. We kind of touched on this one earlier, the Greathouse touchdown against Penn State. Obviously, huge for a lot of reasons, and just the moves that he put on those guys and the significance of that touchdown as well in a game that was obviously, hard fought right down to the end, that he was able to, that they were able to come up with a touchdown like that like those kind of plays had been lacking all season. And even though it wasn't a long pass, what Greathouse was able to do with that, just a huge play all the way around.
Yeah, that was and that was a big moment in that game too. The Penn State, the Greathouse catch against Penn State, like that was either to tie it or break the tie. I forget exactly where it was in the game, but it was a big moment because it was like, oh my God. I remember going out of my mind watching that in my friend's basement, getting very, very excited when that play occurred. So that was a big one, big turning point in that game.
Yeah, if I could find the right box score, let me dial it up here real quick and see. I wanted to say it tied the game.
Okay,
after the extra
they were behind.
Point. Tied the game with about 4.5 minutes to go.
So they were behind.
Yep. All right. Any others from the 2024 season?
That's everything I had on my list.
So, again, Notre Dame didn't make the list of the 25 top plays of the last 25 years. Is there any play that Notre Dame has had, like of all these plays that we've talked about on this show, is there any Notre Dame play that you would say is worthy of consideration for a list like that?
So any Notre Dame play this year that
on the overall, any Notre Dame play that we just talked about, would it?
Should it have been in the top 25 all time?
Would it be worthy of being considered for ESPN's list of the top 25 college football plays of the last 25 years?
Yes, the Love run against Penn State should have been.
Oh, so you would put that on there. See, I would put the Indiana run on before that.
There you go.
Because one, it was 90 whatever yards.
98
yards.
Yeah.
And it was the first touchdown scored of the expanded college football playoff era.
So it's historic.
Yeah.
You're giving it some historic value.
So I think that you could at least, find a way to put it in there at around 24, 25, even if it's at the bottom of the list. I would put that in there because of the overall significance. First playoff game played in a home stadium, first touchdown scored in that game, and it obviously helped propel Notre Dame to a national championship.
I could see that. I could see that. And the thing about these top 25, and I didn't look at the entire list, but the magnitude of the game has to come into play with these moments, right? Yeah. Because like Mike said, the book to Boykins to win the Citrus Bowl, against LSU. Like, yeah, that was a great individual play, but it was the Citrus Bowl. Nobody gave a crap about the Citrus Bowl. So like, that's why I wouldn't put that on an all-time top 25 list, because the moment wasn't big enough. The moment in the IU game, big moment. Moment in the Penn State game, big moment. You know what I
would
mean?
say that's easily, maybe not even easily, but that, like think of the list that we just ran down for last season alone, but like even before last season, that would have been top 25 from a Notre Dame perspective, probably. But yeah,
that's fine.
I don't think you're going to put that on a list of college football's 25 best plays in the last 25 years.
Right.
All right, I was just looking at a comment. So you're going the Penn State love touchdown run. I'm going the IU love touchdown.
Well, they're both massive, and I wouldn't be upset about either one.
Nope, I don't think you could argue. You're splitting hairs at that point.
Right. I do find it interesting, though, that Notre Dame, a positive Notre Dame one, did not make the top 25 list. That does surprise me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but again, like think of the plays, like when you're talking about like big picture significance, Notre Dame hadn't won a major bowl game.
Oh, you're right.
In 30 years.
It's the last 25 years. They've been.
Like, I think that the most significant play, and I think somebody put this up there in the chat, that you could have come up with before last year would probably be the Stanford goal line stand from 2012.
Were there any plays from the 24 season, or is this all pre-24 season?
Oh,
sorry, kind of catching you off guard on that one.
No, I'm just kind of going back and looking.
Because if it includes the 24 season, I'm sorry.
I mean, it does include the 24 season, but there are a lot.
Yeah, okay.
What?
I feel like they should have had a Notre Dame from this year. There should have been a play from this year on that list if they're including 2024.
Well, again, so one of the Jeremiah Love plays?
Absolutely.
Or
I honestly, if you just want to make me happy, pick one.
Like the back, like again, they went Appalachian State beating Michigan for 2007 for a quote unquote play. So like they were a little bit loose with the what they call the play. That was obviously a game. So like I almost would have said the back-to-back pick sixes against USC because of the length and the game away to send Notre Dame into the playoffs.
Yeah.
That might have been my
okay.
But I just scanned through the list and I didn't see any that actually came from the 24 season.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, I just feel like there was a lot that went on this past season.
But there's not in Ohio. Now, I'm not going to say there's not. Okay. They actually put Ohio State wins the national championship game against Miami after the pass interference call in the end zone. I don't know if you remember that. And they got, it was 4th and 3 at the 5. Was initially incomplete. They changed it to pass interference, and Ohio State got another crack at it and scored. So that was Ohio State's only play on this list, was from 2003. So, but my point is, there were no Ohio State plays from the 24 season.
Yeah, when they won a national championship. So, makes perfect sense.
All right, good stuff. Good memory lane as we went through all those different plays, both last season and the last 25 years. As well. So fill in the blank, Vince. Notre Dame had a big football recruiting weekend, and it's blank. Then an old school starter jacket was featured prominently in Notre Dame's recruiting weekend photos of players and coaches.
It's completely legit. Like that's absolute. Like they had a whole like stage basically set up with all these different things. I mean, they had it's funny because they had guys on a gold phone with a cord coming off of it.
Right.
Those guys have never touched a phone with a cord coming off of it, number one. Nor had they probably ever touched a starter jacket. And I love it. I bring it all back. I think it's fantastic.
They had it like hanging up on the coat rack in the back, but then a couple of guys had it like draped around their shoulders. And that was the first one that I saw. One of the guys, I think it was the tight end, had it like wrapped around.
It was like over his shoulder pads. Like,
yeah, it was on his shoulder pads. And I was like, hold it. That's the silky smooth, satiny starter jacket, baby. And that was awesome. That was awesome to see that in there. Because like you said, it was a lot of bling bling and a lot of new stuff.
Everything was like, gold plated, and then they brought in the starter jacket. I mean,
old school starter jacket.
Yeah,
that's
man.
Right. That's right.
Quality.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't know who's in charge over there now these days with these photo shoots, but I like the props.
They did it. They nailed it. They nailed it. All right. We are going to guess
that's right.
the over-under season win total for a team that went to the college football playoffs last year, the SMU Mustangs.
The Stangs.
Yes. Are you ready to go through the schedule?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I love the ones that don't have a logo, by the way. Those are pretty much going to be wins.
They start off with East Texas A&M.
Win.
Then they have Baylor.
Win.
Then Missouri State.
Win.
TCU.
Unless something's changed to my knowledge, I'm going to go with a win.
Probably a win.
The Fighting Steve Angeli's.
Yeah, Syracuse. I think that's a maybe.
That's a maybe. Fine, I'll give that a maybe because you have to go to SMU though. It's an SMU home game,
right?
So that's going to hurt, the team that wants to play in the dome all the time.
Yeah,
I'll give it a maybe. That's fine.
It's still Dallas. It's not like you're playing in
true
crazy weather. Dallas in October. Stanford. That's a win. At Clemson.
That's a toss up or a maybe. Right? That's how we do it. Right? Maybe.
Sure.
Or are you saying that's a loss? Because Clemson's like a top 5 pre-ranked.
I'm leaning towards a loss, but I can call it a maybe until we see what SMU looks like this year. Wake Forest.
Win.
Miami is a maybe.
It's a maybe.
Boston College.
Dub.
Probably a dub. Louisville.
And Louisville is just different every year.
I know.
I'm going to give them a win here, but I wouldn't be upset if we go maybe.
Okay. And then Cal to close the season.
I think that's a win. I got 9.
Man, you're pretty high.
I am. Well, I'm going to put the number at 8.5. That's where I'm going to put the number. So 8.5 is my guess, even though I said 9 wins.
Let me see. Let me double check something here. I think that's going to be mine as well.
All right.
8.5. I was in the 7.5, 8.5 range, and it's just.
I think there's some games on there that I think SMU is probably going to take. I know they're throwing a lot of NIL money around down there in Dallas. We all know that it's down there. If you paid any attention in the 80s, but I think SMU tasted some sweet victory last year. I think they want more of it.
Sweet victory. Josh,
sweet victory.
Josh says 7.5.
Okay.
PA Irish guy and Swang Dong say 8.5.
That's quite the avatar.
Yes. I didn't notice until the end of the show yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, man. I noticed it last week. I was like, wow, we're leaving that up there for a while.
I'm debating in my head a little bit between the 8.5 and the 7.5. I think that looking at their schedule, though, 8.5 is a pretty fair number for a team that just went to the playoffs. So we're both locked in. We're guessing SMU's over-under win total. 8.5 is what we think it will be, and it is 8.5.
There it is.
And it's fairly even as well. Over is minus 114 odds. Under is minus 106.
Oh, wow.
So not too far off. Like they're pretty firm.
Yeah, and I would want to see, can they, obviously can they do it 2 years in a row? That kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting. they're kind of in the same category for me as like an IU. Can they sustain the success that they had, or was it a one-year wonder? I think that's going to be a legitimate thing to think about. And I do think, though, their NIL is going to still be legit, though. They'll have more NIL to throw around than IU will, I think. Yeah. So more possibility for sustainment. That's not a word. For sustaining it in Dallas than I think in Bloomington. But we'll see. We'll see.
Let's switch to NFL a little bit. ESPN's Peter Schrager says after the Bears hired Ben Johnson as their head coach this offseason, all the pressure now is on Caleb Williams going into his second season. Scale of 1 to 10, how make or break do you see this season for Williams, Vince?
Like a 3. I really do not think it is make or break. They're invested in him for at least throughout his rookie contract, right? They're not getting rid of him after year number 2. And you've got a brand new head coach. I realize he's a quote unquote offensive genius and he's young and he's all these things that are great. And it was a good hire by the Bears, but we haven't seen him be a head coach yet, right? So it's a good hire on paper. We're going to have to see how does he mesh with Caleb and all of those different things. Look, I have not been shy about the fact that I am not a Caleb Williams fan, although I am a Bears fan. It's never a make or break season in year 2. I'm sorry. Like that's a little much. And the Bears have never had good quarterback play, so they're willing to kind of wait it out and see what it looks like.
And it's a bit of a mulligan. I think you're absolutely right about the rookie contract. They're at least going to let that play out after taking him last year. And this is basically a reset. This is them honestly realizing what they should have realized before last season. And
right.
They should have made a coach. They should not have had Matt Eberflus as Caleb Williams' head coach, and who they brought in as offensive coordinator, the guy from Seattle. Like that was just a total whiff on the part of the Bears organization. So this is a reset for Caleb Williams. So I would not say it is all on the line for him this year. Like all the pressure is on him. I agree. I think that my number is probably a 3 as well in terms of how much I think that this is make or break. Like, this is the start. Probably next year is going to be make or break because it'll be year, 3 for him, year 2 for him with Ben Johnson. Like you expect some huge growth. I think you expect good growth this year. You would expect huge growth next year. And at that point, you're going to know, like, is this our guy or not? And if not, we're drafting another quarterback again.
100%. He's going to, like, if we have this question next year, right, then that number goes up. Right, that number goes significantly up, in my opinion, because that's year 3. Rookie contracts are 4, right?
Well, 4, and then there's the 5th-year option with the first round guys. But there is an option, so you're committed to 4 years basically.
Yeah. I do think that year 3 though is going to be more of a make or break, right? Because the pendulum at least has to be going this way. You know what I mean? He can't be a failure in year 2. But I would still give him year 3, and then we start talking about, okay, do we need to draft a quarterback in Williams' 4th year? Because if he's not where he's supposed to be, they're going to be drafting fairly high, right? Yep. And so, what does that look like? I'd be all good if 2 years from now the Bears draft CJ Carr when he comes out.
Oh, so there you go. All right. That's what you're hoping for.
Yes, that's the perfect scenario. All right. That's the perfect scenario.
Right. But as we know, it's like we never get what we want when it comes to Notre Dame in our pro teams.
No, we don't. I'm clinging to the Cole Kmet at tight end.
I know.
Right now.
I know. So after missing last year's Nathan's hot dog eating competition, Joey Chestnut is going to take part in this year's 4th of July event. They have come to terms, and he will be back. Scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you now to watch, Vince?
Okay. So there's kind of 2 scales here. So scale of 1 to 10 likely to watch is fairly low because I'm going to be on vacation. But I am interested. I have this kind of sick fascination with the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And so at the very least, I like to find out what happens.
Right.
And maybe see like a bit of a replay. You know what I mean? So I'm going to put it at like a 2 for watching it live Because like I think it was 2 years ago, I was on vacation and we happened to be eating lunch at the time, and they had ESPN on the TV at the restaurant, so we watched it. You know what I mean? My wife was significantly grossed out, so were the girls, but like the rest of us were all watching.
It's always like when they've got the red Gatorade and stuff,
and they're dunking
the buns in the red Gatorade. It looks disgusting.
It's nasty. But for whatever reason, it's like a car accident. I can't look away. I want to see who wins. And it's like an 8 or a 9 as far as like me wanting to know what happened.
I'm at a 9. I'm at a 9. It was like totally uneventful without him last year. Even though he blows everybody away, it's like nobody cared. Nobody wants the competition to be close. They just want to see the guy who can wolf down and like whatever he does with that throat and get those hot dogs down and the nasty soggy buns as well. And so the worst part. I get like he was like he did some kind of like endorsement for like a like a fake meat kind of place or something like, and so that's where like the whole thing blew up, I guess. And so they got him back, and I think it's good for everybody. But I'm like you, like I very rarely watch live, but ESPN, typically replays it a couple times.
Oh
yeah. So I'll like watch after the fact and stuff like that.
I do get a kick out of like the MC guy who's been there forever, and he like has these long soliloquies about each person that comes out. It's entertaining. It is.
He's the broccoli eating champion of the world.
Yes.
He's the hot pepper eating champion of the world. Yeah.
Hilarious. It's hilarious because it's such a show. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I would be the kind of person that would ever want to go and stand out there and watch it happen, but it's kind of like one of those bucket lists, like you can say you were there kind of a deal. I mean, I've never been to New York, so I highly doubt I would actually be there on the 4th of July. It's kind of a bucket list item, though. I'm not going to lie.
I've actually eaten at that Nathan's.
Have you really?
It's right down a couple years. Like 1 year they had the Big East baseball tournament out there. It's it's where it's in Brooklyn, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's, like Coney Island or like the amusement park and the Brooklyn Cyclones baseball team. I was trying to think of the name. That was the stadium is right there, and then there's like an amusement park and the whole thing right next to it. And so the Nathan's hot dog place is like right there, right outside where the Brooklyn Cyclones play. So I got a hot dog there.
There you go.
So I can say that.
So you can at least check that part off.
Yeah,
I like
exactly. There's nobody standing around eating like 60 hot dogs though.
No. And buns. It's always the and buns that get me.
The man who could eat 60 hot dogs and buns in 5.5 minutes.
It's nasty.
Yes. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Appreciate you as always. A lot of great input with the play suggestions and all that kind of stuff. Now, I understand you are at least partway through the town.
I am. It was a busy day today.
Okay.
And obviously I had the afternoon show, which cut out, a significant chunk of time. But I will have it done, no questions asked, by tomorrow's show.
All right.
I think I'm going to finish it off tonight.
We can discuss then. We can discuss.
Both of the quotes that you were talking about yesterday have already occurred. And so I got a good chuckle out of both of those quotes.
Who's Cowie taking?
Yeah.
There goes college soccer.
There goes college soccer. That's great. That's so funny. It's just so random. Right? It's just so random. Like the guy's totally serious, dude.
I know.
All right, which guy are we taking? And he's like, he goes up to him and he's like, okay, we're gonna go do this, and you can never ask me about it again.
Right. And he pauses, looks at him. Who's guy we taking?
Yeah. Right. All right. Okay.
It's your ride or die, man. Like that's the guy you want in your corner, I guess.
I know.
Right?
I know. Oh my gosh. And he tries to get out of the guy, like why they're there. He's like, I have no idea. Like, what are you talking about?
What'd you do to my friend?
Yeah.
What'd you do to make him mad?
That's my brother.
My brother. Yeah, that's right.
Like, wow, okay.
Okay, so it sounds like you're enjoying it already.
I am enjoying it so far. I am very curious to see kind of where this goes.
All right.
Because there's a lot going on right now.
There is a lot going on. There'll be even more going on.
Because I feel like they're hot on their trail. The FBI is hot on the trail.
John Hamm's coming. That's
yes,
right.
He is. John Hamm is coming.
Remember this one. We are a national organization.
Okay.
All right, hit the like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll get Vince's review of the town at the end of the mailbag and rapid fire. We will talk to you then on IB Nation Sports Talk.